Hello, and welcome to the Person-Centered Services To Be Honest podcast, where we provide information about care coordination. I'm Koreena.
And I'm Dustyn.
And the mission of this podcast is to provide perspectives and insights on care coordination to enrich the lives of all people.
So, Koreena, I think first thing we want to talk about is some service announcements all across our service area, right?
Yes, and I think it's the perfect time, even though it's just barely spring, to talk about summer programming.
Yes, summer programming is important to our families, so we wanted to try to give you as many resources as we can. And I think we have 3 really magnificent programs, Koreena.
Yeah, so today we have a Cradle Beach. So how much about Cradle Beach do you know?
I don't know much about Cradle Beach. I've heard some great things about it. I know the participants love it every year, and Koreena, I know you were there last year. You say it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's much bigger than I thought it would be. Actually, it's ginormous. And beach is, it's gorgeous. If you have a chance to go, definitely try.
And there's several dates for your camp this year, isn't there?
Right. So they have, Magic Camp is the first week. Lost in Space is the second. Color Wars. I don't know what Color Wars
I wonder what that is, yeah.
That'd be. I wonder if it's like when you throw paint at each other or something.
It might be, yeah, I wonder.
The next week is Heroes versus Villains.
Ooh.
That one could be interesting.
Really, yeah.
Would you want to be a hero or a villain?
I am a villain, so.
No way. No.
Yes.
Well, then I'll be the hero.
Okay, fine.
Ooh, the next one's Christmas in July.
Ooh.
I love a good Christmas in July. I don't think everybody always likes Christmas in July.
Because the fall is kind of a weird time of year. The 6th week is Olympics. That'd be kind of neat, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Any chance to get out there, I wonder exactly what kind of things they'd be doing for that. Because the next week is football.
Huh.
Oh, football training camp.
So I bet you they're going to Rochester here. Because the Bills usually do their training camp in,
Oh, then they have another Color Wars in session 8.
Huh. And then they have it looks like they're trying to Camp Encore this year, so I wonder, that's sponsored by the Children's Guild, so I wonder what that's all about there, Koreena.
Oh, I'm not sure, but I'd be interested to know.
I would too. And, obviously you have to apply for that, I do believe, right?
Yeah, so that program, the program for having Cradle Beach, would be in Angola. It's for children that are 3 to 16 years old. It's a camp respite, and then they do the weekly, so you would have to sign up for that.
Okay.
But all of the information that's regarding all of this, we'll have it down in either in the description, wherever you'll find it.
Yeah,
it's somewhere
we'll
here.
get it on description and social media, and we'll be able to get that information out there for you. Koreena, let's go to something a little bit more, not just for summer, but I know they do have, over at People Inc., I know they have a really incredible program over there. And it's so incredible that they even put incredible in their name.
So you're talking about the Incredible Years program, right? It's a summer program. It's a social group. It's free. It's through FSS. So you would just have to make sure if you have a self-directed plan for this one, that FSS is in your self-directed budget. Otherwise, it's free. Their groups are from, what are the ages on here? I think it was, so they're 8 to 18 years old, and they're also weekly as well.
Yeah, and they go the entire summer also, right?
I think, so they have 3 sessions. They're Monday through Friday. They're 9 to 2 p.m., and so they have it in July and August. And they break them up based on their ages. So the first session is ages 8 through 12, and the second and the third are 13 through 18. So they can bunch those people together to have them learn about social skills together, building relationships, working through issues that you come along with those age stages.
And this one specifically, the Incredible Years, stood out to me because it does a really good job of taking all of the social determinants of health, which I know we briefly talked about on our first episode, and kind of puts them all together in one really good program. So Again, we will share all of that information for you. So, but if you want to look into that for your children, you certainly can. But there's one more, Koreena, talking about Bristol Hills.
Bristol, I know nothing about Bristol Hills.
I know
But
nothing.
in Canandaigua area.
Yeah, okay, so it's okay. So it's up in with the Finger Lakes kind of.
Yeah. So it's a connections program with an opportunity, let's see, for unique and fun summer activities for children.
What's the eligibility on it?
So to attend the summer day camp program, it's through Autism
Oh, it's
Connection
through Autism
Campers.
Connection Camp.
The ages are between 5 and 20, and you need to be OPWDD eligible and have waiver eligibility. So there is a cost associated with this one.
Okay.
This one has sessions 1 through 3. It's $460 a week, and then sessions 4 is $380. But there are scholarship opportunities available.
Okay.
So that information will be together with the flyer and everything to call about. There's transportation. So the transportation would be the responsibility of the family members.
And I think that's the case for most of the summer program. Not all of them, but I think for most of them, it is the responsibility of the family. So again, we'll share the information on our social media, and you can look into that more. We have a really interesting conversation coming up today with Chief Program Officer Rachel Martin, who I think has a wealth of experience that she can share about those life-changing effects of care coordination.
Oh, and I'm so excited because she is actually the inspiration of this podcast. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. So, you know what? Why don't you tell the people briefly about that? Because I think that is interesting.
Oh my gosh, that was so long ago. So in February of 2020, right before COVID hit, we had our last in-person meeting at one of our offices at Person-Centered Services. And just happened to be, we were getting out of our cars. I was getting out of mine. Rachel was getting out of her car. I had heard what I thought was a care coordination podcast coming from her vehicle. And so I had no idea who Rachel Martin was at this point.
That's funny.
Had no idea at all. But so I walk over and I say, "Hey, excuse me, I think you were listening to a podcast. I'm really interested in knowing what that was about because I think it was for care coordination." And she said, no, I was just on the phone taking a meeting. But that'd be a really cool idea. And so this is how everything came about.
So I think this is kind of a full circle moment for this podcast to bring her in early and to get her insights. So really looking forward to that.
I can't wait.
I can't either.
Let's do it.
And we have a very special guest on this episode here, Chief Program Officer Rachel Martin. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. Really happy you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be a part of this.
So I've been asked this a couple of times. I'm sure you've been asked this more than once. So who is Rachel Martin?
So I moved to Buffalo in 2008 and had lived kind of a little all over the East Coast before then. I was doing a couple things with working with kids with disabilities, working with just kids in general. I really thought I was going to be an elementary school teacher. I was doing a lot of sitting on the floor and singing songs with my preschoolers for a while. And then my husband got transferred to the Buffalo area. And I fell into a job with OPWDD with one of the provider agencies as a Medicaid service coordinator. And I fell in love with the field.
And so that kind of talks about how you got started in the field here in New York State. But how in the world did care coordination kind of come about for you? And when did you really get your first look at care coordination?
Well, I was lucky. When I was at my previous agency before the transition, I was overseeing our MSc program as well as our day hab. And we were also trying to add a couple more programs. When the transition happened, the timing was just right for me to make a leap. I came to Person-Centered Services right on July 1st, 2018. I came in as a local director, and I think that that is the best thing that could have happened to me. I got to be on the ground at the beginning, trying to figure out what is a life plan, not just how to do it, but what is it? What are the requirements, and where do we document anything? And I got to do that right alongside all the care coordinators. Shout out to the W4 pod, because that was my pod. And then I've just been afforded really amazing opportunities since then.
Yeah, and I think, those questions that you were asking on July 1st, 2018, we're still asking today.
Yeah, some of
And
them we are, yes. We have amazing care coordinators who I remember that very first day saying, I don't know where I'm documenting any of this. I don't know where the rules are, but my person needs to see me, so I'm going to go see them. And that's the heart of what we do here. I know that our care coordinators are so dedicated to this work.
they are. They're so dedicated. And I think the whole team is dedicated to the people that we serve. And so I guess that leads me to what in the world is the Chief Program Officer, Rachel?
So I oversee 3 departments. I oversee the care coordination department, which is obviously our biggest. We have over 700 people in the care coordination department. I also oversee our intake and eligibility department and our learning and development department. So my job is to see how things are running, make sure that they all have what they need to be successful, that they are able to say like, oh, this is my barrier, this is why I can't do something I really want to do, take their innovative ideas and help them make them into a reality. And of course, working with all of our other great departments within the company so that we can make sure, the HR stuff is in place, the IT stuff is in place, all of that works together like a big orchestra.
So before I go any further, can you kind of do the people that we serve a favor? And as you're going up the chain of command, you once you get to the regional director, if you need to go further, it kind of gets cloudy. So, can you kind of explain the difference between the Chief Program Officer and the AVP of Care Coordination? Because I think that's been a question that I've had one member ask me before, and I'm sure there's other people that have that same question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So Stacy Blair is our awesome AVP of Care Coordination. Her focus is only care coordination, right? So she does definitely think about how it's communicating and collaborating with all of the other departments, but she gets to focus on care coordination as her number one priority. With me having 3 departments total, I get divided a little bit into the other ones. Although ours really work well together,
really
with
do.
intake and eligibility, and then in care coordination and learning and development, those are such a perfect fit. So when I have things that need to be disseminated to care coordination, I go to Stacy, and Stacy makes it happen. And she asks all the great questions and says, well, here's what I think would work better, and here's the way that the timeline would work well for people so that they can be successful. That's her real strength.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense here. So then that comes out to, how does the role of the Chief Program Officer really enhance care coordination?
Well, my hope is that I am enhancing things, to really be that strategic thinker of what are the things that we need to improve, looking at sometimes data, sometimes qualitative information, and saying, where are we already successful and how is that going, and what's the right stuff that we can either get to other places or improve upon even more, or looking for places where we need some improvement, saying, okay, well, what's the root cause of this problem, and how do we get to the bottom of it? How do we work together to improve it together?
And we talk about care coordination finally coming into its mold, right? It's almost 6 years later. It'll be 6 years in July. Now that you've had almost 6 years to marinate on this term, care coordination, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think that it's right there in the title, right? Like that coordinating care. And I think about how our society has gotten complicated, right? It's more technological. It's very fast paced. Things are they're hard to navigate, right? Our systems are difficult to navigate, not just in OPWDD, but in everything we do, in going to the bank and going to the doctor, insurance companies, all of these things. And all of us could use a little bit of help, right? Trying to figure out how to navigate all of these things and do all of these things and do them well and keep up. When we're working with people with IDD, they might, in some areas, need a little bit more help. Somebody to help keep them on track, or somebody to just remind them, or to say like, hey, listen, you don't have to navigate this complicated system. I'll do it for you. Right. I'll take that on. I know it for 35 people, and I can help you so that you don't have to learn it all on your own.
And I think we continue to add to those supports every day with our support functions. And I think that, and I talked about this on our first episode, that's kind of what member relations is too. It's another layer of support for the almost 18,000 people that we serve. But there's still a lot of unanswered what ifs and what about this, and the people who've been here since, and I'm guilty of this too, the people who've been here since July 1, 2018 say, well, MSCs used to do this, and they used to do this, and they used to do this. That's not all the same anymore. So what is the biggest myth about care coordination?
I think the biggest myth is that it's the same as MSC. It's not at all.
No.
I think that talking about the regulations and the audit tools and things that we are responsible for now are very different than what they were in MSC. MSC was a really good program. This is much more enhanced, especially when it comes to health, right? So the things like talking to people's endocrinologists and recognizing that something in their physical means not just reading the physical, we'll put it in the file, but what follow-up is needed? Did you get the meds that you needed? Did you get the lab work that you needed? What did your lab work say? What does that mean? And that's why we have this great clinical team who can help with that too, because we don't expect that our care coordinators have a medical degree. You can't, but it is really exciting when you kind of get in there and you say, I wonder if this thing is actually causing this symptom, and maybe we could do something about that. Maybe we could make your life a little bit better by helping you through that, because they are hard to figure out.
And, you talk about a great clinical team. I can't wait to kind of showcase that to the people that we serve, right? Because I don't know that everybody realizes that we, as a CCO, have clinicians right on staff where they work for them alongside their care coordinators. So that, to me, is awesome.
Yes, it's an amazing tool that we have. Our nurses and our behavioral specialists are incredible. They're so dedicated. They want to help all the time. We're just really lucky that we have such a great clinical team.
And this is really a deep question here, Rachel, but what are some of the traits that you look for in a care coordinator?
I look for people who are excited when they get something done, right? Like when they help somebody find a service or get adaptive tech into their home, and they celebrate right alongside them because they know that they did that work, that said, we got that thing for that person that they needed, and it's unique to each person. To be able to celebrate with them and say, like, we did this together, that's always a great feeling. And I think also, not having to be the person who knows everything, because you can't. It's impossible. We Google stuff all the time, right? Yeah. For everything that we do. So being able to be that person that says, I don't know, but I'm going to find out, that gets back to you, that is there for you, that's going to help you if you ask for help.
So, Rachel, it is interesting because this field's not always easy, either for the people that work in it or for the people who get the services from the people who work in it. And you've seen that a lot, especially lately, as Chief Program Officer. And with that comes implementations of new strategies and new assessments and new policies and new things that both your care coordinators and the members need to do. And then as that, kind of implements, what's your message to the care coordinators and the people that we serve about all of these new implementation policies?
I think it's always important to start with the why. If we're doing something new, why are we doing it? Is it because we are looking for people's, at the very base, their health and safety, their ability to just not be in a dangerous situation? I think we all want that, right? So when we can get back to that why and say, well, if we were to do this thing, then would it lead to better outcomes for people? Ultimately, I know that's what every care coordinator wants. That's what every person in this whole company wants, is for the people that we support to have the best outcomes possible, but also the people that work for us to have their own best outcomes possible too.
Yeah, and speaking of new policies and procedures, is there anything that you think at this moment that the people that we serve should know about in terms of changes or new things kind of coming our way?
Yeah, I think one that, because you sent me this question ahead of time, which I appreciated because it gave me some time to think about it. I think one of the things that's embedded in a lot of our policies is talking to people about their rights. And I think that is so, so important. Then we need to also get that information out to the people that we support to directly talk to them about their rights. We do some of that. We've done a little bit. We do some things in our newsletters. We've had videos and we've had webinars, but we need to continue that because what we want is for people with IDD to be empowered to know their own rights and to exercise them.
Yeah, and that work is being done, I think, all across the company by so many different people. And I think you're right. And a lot of times when I'm out, on the ground talking to members, which is unfortunately I can't do it every day, but when I'm able to get out, it's powerful. And what you find out is once they find out that they have a right to do something or to ask for something, the emotions just you can see it right in their face. So you're right, that's so empowering. And then I guess so. Hold on 1 second. What are you? There we go. What are you and the leadership team kind of working on to enhance that care coordination experience for the people that we serve?
Well, I'm going to say that big scary word, that AI. We are trying to learn more about artificial intelligence and how it could help care coordinators be more efficient, be able to do things more quickly. And I'll be honest, like it was a little bit scary, right? Because it's different and it's new, and we want to be able to use it in a way that makes sense and that is helpful to people. But if we could have some intuitive things that help people to not duplicate work, I think that would be really helpful. I know that care coordinators spend a lot of time putting the same information into different systems. And if we were able to use AI to our advantage to save that time, then they could focus more on the people we support.
And we talked a lot about, enhancing that experience, right? And one of the most complicated experiences that you have in this entire thing before you even get here is a very cumbersome intake process. Can you kind of explain that process a little bit?
Yeah, we have an incredible intake team. It's now 28 people large. The things that you have to have in place before you can be eligible and before you can enroll in services are usually state run, right? So the state is the one who determines eligibility. They let us know what paperwork they need and what has to be submitted, and there's timelines to all of that. And then there's also the Medicaid aspect as well. Do you qualify for Medicaid on your own? Do you have to have waivers in order to qualify for Medicaid? Do you have to do a spend down because of your income? And those are all different complications as well. So we rely a lot on other systems to be as quick and as effective as possible. And sometimes they're not, but they do try, right? I know that they're really trying. And sometimes they also have trouble with staffing and things like that as well. Our intake specialist role is to help people through that process because it is cumbersome. It's a lot of work. It's understanding what they need to get and even offering to go get that for them if we can, to say, like, you're going to need these tests and we can try to hook you up with somebody who can get those for you. Sometimes those wait lists are long and things like that, but can we find someone who has a shorter wait list, or can we get you on a cancellation schedule or something like that? So that's what the intake specialists are doing, is really moving around a lot of documentation, navigating a lot of complicated systems, and making it so that the people that we support aren't the ones who have to do that and figure it all out themselves.
Hey, I want to ask you a fun question before we get out of here. If you could be any animal, what would you be?
All right, I had trouble with this one because I joke with my kids. I have 2 daughters at home, and whenever they want to play charades, they always say, "Mom, please don't pick flamingo." So I had to pick flamingo because it's just like a running joke in our house. I don't know why, but we'll just go with the flamingo. They seem very balanced, right? They put that one leg up and they just stand there so zen. So I would like to be like the flamingo, where I stand out a little bit. People are like, "Wow, look at that nice bird." But I also am very calm on the inside.
That's great. Well, then, you kind of take that flamingo approach to approaching to service every day, don't you?
I try to.
Cool, calm, and collected. All right, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this was great. Koreena, that was a really interesting conversation. Thank you to Rachel Martin for joining us this episode here. But before we leave, I think we have a positive spin that we want to put on today's episode.
Yeah, we have a positive quote for today. It's, "Let your smile change the world. Don't let the world change your smile."
I love that because it comes from 2 different angles. But what I really like about that is it represents, I think, what most people see the IDD community for, and that's happiness and change. And that's what I really like about that quote.
I really enjoy the fact that it's about being an impact to other people and being the change you wish to see in the world.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk more about that change and some other things in the next episode in June. I'm Dustyn.
And I'm Koreena.
And until then,
Stay honest.